Today on Pro Church Daily, we're talking about 3 ways that millennials should be learning from older church leaders.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Daily, the show where in 10 minutes or less you'll get your daily dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift we've seen in the last 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills. I'm joined as always by the boss man, it's Brady Shearer, and today we're talking about 3 ways that millennials should learn from older church leaders.
On yesterday's episode of Pro Church Daily, Alex, we talked about 3 ways that older church leaders can help disciple millennials. And on this episode, we want to flip the script and talk about 3 ways millennials should learn from older church leaders. And this is a very important thing. If someone is older than you, they have lived longer and have more life experience. We have so much to glean from them as younger people. Sure, millennials might be the largest living generation, and sure, we might be the next heirs to all of the big positions in our churches, but we're still quite young, and we have a lot to learn. And so if you are a millennial, we're going to share 3 actionable steps that you can take with your older senior leaders to really help foster a healthy relationship between the youngers and the olders, but also to create more dynamic and healthy individual relationships. We all need mentors. We all need those that are older than us, that have gone before us and been through the trials and tribulations that we have not yet encountered. And these 3 action steps are great starting points. Number 1, ask the following question to an older church leader. Ask, what do you wish you knew at age 25, or insert current age that you are, so in my case, at age 27, that you now know? This is such a powerful question to ask, because if you are a young person, we have the propensity to assume that we know everything. When you are younger and you haven't been punched in the face by life enough times, you think, 1, I'm never going to die, I will always be this young, and I know all there is to know. This is especially prevalent generally the younger you are. So in my life, when I was a teenager, there was a reason that I drove a little more recklessly than I do now. Because I was like, I'm never going to die. I'm a teenager. My brain wasn't even fully formed until I was 25 years old. How old are you, Alex?
25.
How long have you been that old?
A week.
So up until a week ago, your brain was not even fully formed. So as an 18-year-old, you don't have the same type of cognition and decision-making abilities because your brain just isn't even fully formed yet. You get older, it doesn't change that much. And so for you to go to someone who's older than you and show the humility and say, I'm 27, what would you tell your 27-year-old self if you could right now? It demonstrates to your senior leadership a position of humility. It shows that you are teachable, which is one of the best things that a leader can see in a person they're trying to lead. Teachability, a willing spirit that wants to learn and is hungry to learn from the experience of others. It's a great way to show to that senior leader, look, I'm a part of this. I'm not about myself. I really want to be the best me I can be for both myself and this organization and this church. So what can I learn? What would you tell yourself if you were 27 all over again?
I think this is true for every young person that's ever been. It's not just specific to millennials, but every young person that's ever been has been too arrogant, too ignorant, too naive. They just believe that they know it all. But for millennials, it's unique because we are digital natives and we've always had Google. We've always had Wikipedia, and we've always had all the information we've ever needed. And so frankly, if we wanted to know it all, we could. The internet has it all. I could know anything. I could ask my phone.
School reinforced that too. School taught us that the best way to figure out if we were smart or not was to be able to regurgitate facts, which now are the easiest commodity thanks to Google.
Exactly. So I could know anything I want to know, but there's something so unique about life experience. And I've learned this in pastoral ministry. I'm young in my pastoral ministry career, and my dad is actually my lead pastor, and so I have a unique, mentorship with him, and I'm thankful for that. But there's just so much that life teaches you that Wikipedia could never teach you, that facts and even empirical data like we talk about all the time, that we could never learn from that. But there's something so unique and almost divine about life experience and that which comes by age. And so I love what you said about, that posture of humility, that if you always assume that posture, that there's always something that I could learn here, and I'm always willing to be taught something regardless of what age I am, that's really going to help not only in your own personal development as a person, but in your working relationships, whether it's in church or ministry or work or wherever you're at. That's the key.
The second thing that millennials should learn and do when it comes to working with older church leaders is similar. This one is specific more to millennials and our unique generation, is ask an older church leader's opinion on something that would be traditionally attributed to young people. Go into this question and conversation, assume they know something that you do not. That's the posture you want to enter the conversation with. You're not just doing this to check a box. You're assuming this individual, wow, traditionally, I should know more about them in this digital thing than they would. I'm assuming there's something I'm missing just because of the age gap, and go into the conversation that way and then really listen to them. And an example of a question that you could ask would be, hey, what do you think about how Netflix has changed the way that we watch TV? And what do you think we can learn from that when it comes to the church, our church, and the challenges and changes that we're facing? You know, I grew up and I remember cable TV, satellite TV. I remember just plain old not satellite and cable TV having, 20 channels. I think my parents remember when there were no channels, when there were 3 channels. So, I've lived, let's say, half of my life with a Netflix, half of my adult life. They've lived the majority of their life without it. So they've got a different perspective. What is it like living through this tremendous change where suddenly we all hate commercials?
Yeah.
I mean, we used to dislike them. A commercial comes on the TV now. My daughter, who just turned 3, goes, "Commercial!
Yeah.
Commercial! Go!" She doesn't understand. We used to not be able to yell at them. We used to just have to sit and take it.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And man, like this, even just hearing you propose that question, I'm self-reflecting as I hear you talking and recognizing situations in which I've totally failed at this. Gone into a conversation with my pastor at church about something like Facebook ads that I think I know infinitely more about than he does, but there's probably a perspective or something that he, in his wealth of knowledge that he has, that just offers a different perspective that would even enable me to do my job better, even though I think I know everything there is to know about Facebook. So that's really interesting.
Final thing that you as a millennial can do: don't generalize an individual relationship. Don't assume that an older church leader is a certain way just because they come from a specific generation.
Yeah.
We're all unique. It's helpful to categorize and generalize because it allows us to look at macro trends and data, but everyone is unique and individual. We talked about this on the inverse episode of Pro Church Daily.
Right.
And one example of this is Carey Nieuwhof. We did an interview with him on the Pro Church podcast a year ago, and the whole premise of that interview was how to dominate Instagram stories when you're 50 plus.
Yeah.
And Carey has done an amazing job leveraging the Instagram stories platform, which was brand new at the time that we did this episode. And I was learning things from him, and I'm a social media quote-unquote expert.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he learned the platform, and I said, was it difficult? He's like, it was probably more difficult for me to learn than you, but it was difficult for me to learn how to drive. I learned it was important, and now I dominate it. And so don't assume that just because somebody is 50 plus, 40 plus, that they aren't able to adapt. And they're not smarter than you in individual categories. Always assess on an individual relationship when you are in that individual relationship.
And isn't it interesting that probably the way that Carey arrived at that position was in his older age compared to you and I, he still remained teachable and still recognized that even though I'm 50, however old he is,
back.
I still have something to learn here. And he took that opportunity and was able to teach you something about something you should have known more about according to generational lines, right? So it's very interesting.
I want to conclude this episode of Pro Church Daily by just giving a call to action. If you are above the age of 40, and you're listening or watching this, I would love for you to leave a comment below this video on YouTube and let us know what should be added to this list. We talk about what we think millennials should be doing when it comes to older leaders. Right. We are not older leaders yet. So what did we miss? What would you like millennials to learn from you, to ask of you, to posture? What can we do better? Leave it in the comments below. Let us know. That'll do it for this episode of Pro Church Daily. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode of Pro Church Daily. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss another video.
And if you like this episode, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. If you like those shoes,
you can literally get them anywhere.
Are we good?
Oh, yeah.
We're ready. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode of Pro Church Daily. Make sure, what do I say? To subscribe? I say subscribe, you say like.
Yes.
Yeah, I was right this time. I'm second guessing myself. No, this is a second guess.
Usually I screw it up. This time, I wasn't going to screw it up, but was so used to screwing it up, I screwed it up. Get your facts straight.